The morning sun was soft and pale when Tom walked toward the city bank. He held his daughter Mia's small hand tightly as people passed them on the busy street. Tom was a single father, and his life moved between work, home, and caring for Mia. He did not complain about his routine. He only focused on doing his best every day. This morning was special for him because he needed to check his bank balance before making an important decision. Tom wore simple clothes. His jacket was clean but old, and his shoes showed signs of long use. He had bought them years ago and kept them well. Mia wore a blue dress and a small backpack. She looked around with bright eyes, curious about everything she saw. To her, the world was still full of wonder. The bank building stood tall and shiny. Glass doors opened as Tom and Mia walked inside. Cool air greeted them, and the quiet sound of machines and low voices filled the hall. Tom looked around to find the counter where he could check his balance. He did not like banks very much. They made him feel small and watched. Still, he stayed calm for Mia's sake. At the other side of the hall stood a woman named Rose. She was well known in the city. People often talked about her success and wealth. She wore a sharp black coat and carried an expensive bag. Her hair was neat, and her posture showed confidence. She was waiting for her turn, scrolling on her phone, clearly in no hurry. Tom guided Mia to sit on a nearby chair. He told her softly to wait while he spoke to the teller. Mia nodded and began swinging her legs, humming quietly. Tom stepped forward and greeted the teller with a polite smile. He asked in a calm voice if he could see his account balance. Rose looked up when she heard Tom speak. Her eyes moved from his jacket to his shoes and then to his face. She raised an eyebrow and gave a short laugh that carried across the hall. Some people turned to look. Tom noticed but chose to ignore it. He had learned not to react to every sound. The teller nodded and began typing on the computer. The keyboard clicks echoed in the quiet space. Tom waited patiently. He kept his hands folded and his eyes on the screen. His heart beat a little faster, but not from fear. He was thinking about the long road that had brought him here. Years ago, Tom's life had been very different. He had worked 2 jobs while caring for Mia after her mother passed away. Nights were short, and days were long. Many times, he felt tired beyond words. Still, he never stopped moving forward. He planned carefully, saved quietly, and trusted his own path. Rose leaned closer to the counter. She spoke in a loud voice, as if she wanted everyone to hear her thoughts. She said that people should dress better when coming to a bank. She said that success should be visible. Her words were sharp and careless. Tom did not answer. He kept his face calm and his voice silent. He had heard such words before. He knew that not all strength showed on the outside. Mia looked at Rose, then back at her father. Tom met her eyes and smiled gently. That smile told her everything was fine. The teller paused for a moment. The screen was still loading. Tom could see the reflection of Rose's face in the glass. She looked amused and impatient. She tapped her fingers on the counter and shook her head slightly. Tom took a deep breath. He remembered the nights he stayed awake planning his future. He remembered turning down comfort to build something lasting. He remembered every promise he made to himself and to Mia. This balance check was not just about money. It was about proof that his choices mattered. Mia stood up from her chair and walked closer to Tom. She held onto his leg and looked up at him. Tom placed his hand on her head and gave her a reassuring pat. He whispered that everything was okay. Mia smiled and stood quietly beside him. The bank hall felt smaller now. All eyes seemed to be on the counter. The silence grew heavier with each second. Rose crossed her arms and waited, still confident that nothing surprising would happen. Tom remained still. He did not rush the moment. He believed that patience often spoke louder than pride. As the screen continued to load, the air felt charged with quiet expectation. No one knew yet that this simple request to see a balance was about to change how several people in that room saw the world. The screen at the teller counter was still loading, and the quiet inside the bank began to feel heavy. Tom stood straight, his hand resting gently on Mia's shoulder. He did not rush the teller or ask questions. He understood that some things took time, and he had learned patience through years of hard work and careful choices. Rose let out another small laugh and shook her head. She looked around the hall, hoping others would share her amusement. A few people glanced away, uncomfortable. Others watched in silence. Rose enjoyed attention and believed it was always meant for her. She spoke again, saying that banks were not places for daydreams. Her voice was smooth but carried pride. Tom heard her words clearly. Still, he did not respond. He focused on Mia instead. Mia looked up at him with curious eyes. She did not fully understand what was happening, but she sensed the tension. Tom smiled at her and whispered that they would be done soon. His calm voice helped her relax. The teller cleared his throat and continued working on the computer. He had seen many people come and go through the bank. Some were loud, some quiet, some kind, some not. He noticed Tom's steady behavior and felt a quiet respect for him. The teller typed again, double-checking the details to make sure everything was correct. While waiting, Tom's mind drifted back to the past. He remembered the first small savings account he opened years ago. At that time, the balance was very low, but his hope was high. He remembered placing small amounts into the account whenever he could. Sometimes it was not much, but he never skipped a chance to save. After long days of work, Tom would return home tired. Mia would run to him with a smile, and that alone gave him strength. He cooked simple meals, helped with schoolwork, and read her stories before sleep. While others spent freely, Tom planned carefully. He believed in building something solid, even if it took time. Rose adjusted her coat and stepped closer to the counter. She looked at the teller and asked loudly if there was a problem. Her tone suggested that delays were unacceptable. The teller replied politely that the system was processing. Rose sighed and rolled her eyes. Tom shifted his weight slightly but stayed calm. He had faced harder moments than this. He had faced empty rooms, long nights, and silent worries. Compared to those times, this was easy. He reminded himself that people often judged what they did not understand. Mia noticed Rose staring and felt uneasy. She moved closer to Tom and held his hand. Tom squeezed her hand gently. He wanted her to learn strength through calm actions, not loud words. He wanted her to know that respect began with how one treated others. A soft sound came from the computer as the screen refreshed. The teller leaned forward, reading carefully. His expression changed slightly, but he said nothing yet. He looked again to confirm the information. His fingers paused above the keyboard. Rose noticed the teller's pause and leaned in, curious now. Her smile slowly faded, replaced by confusion. She did not expect anything unusual. In her mind, Tom was just another tired man checking a small balance before leaving. Tom watched the teller quietly. He felt a steady confidence inside him. He knew what the screen would show. He had seen the numbers before, but this moment felt different. It felt like a test of patience and dignity. The teller finally looked up at Tom. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He asked Tom to confirm his identity once more. Tom nodded and did so without hesitation. The teller typed again and turned the screen slightly toward Tom. Rose tried to see the screen from where she stood. Her eyes narrowed as she leaned closer. Other people nearby also became curious. The room felt still, as if everyone was holding their breath. Tom glanced at the screen briefly. He did not react strongly. He had trained himself not to show too much emotion in public. He simply nodded, as if confirming something he already knew. To him, the number was not about pride. It was about security and future plans for Mia. The teller smiled politely and said that everything was in order. He printed a small paper and handed it to Tom. Tom thanked him sincerely. His voice was gentle and respectful. The teller nodded back, clearly impressed by Tom's behavior. Rose finally saw part of the number on the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. She stepped back without saying a word. The confidence she had earlier began to slip. She crossed her arms, suddenly quiet. Tom did not look at Rose. He folded the paper carefully and placed it in his pocket. He took Mia's hand and prepared to leave. Before walking away, he turned back to the teller and thanked him again for his help. As Tom and Mia walked toward the exit, the atmosphere in the bank felt different. The quiet was no longer uncomfortable. It was thoughtful. People watched them pass, some with new respect in their eyes. Mia looked up at Tom and asked softly if they could get ice cream later. Tom smiled and said yes. That simple promise mattered more to him than any number on a screen. Behind them, Rose stood still, staring at the counter. For the first time that morning, she said nothing. The laughter was gone, replaced by silent reflection. Tom and Mia stepped outside the bank into the warm daylight. The noise of the street returned, with cars passing and people walking in different directions. Tom held Mia's hand firmly as they moved toward a quiet corner near a small park. He wanted to sit for a moment and let the morning settle. They sat on a wooden bench under a tree. Leaves moved gently in the breeze. Mia kicked her feet lightly and looked up at her father. She asked why the lady inside the bank had laughed earlier. Tom took a slow breath before answering. He chose his words with care. He told Mia that some people speak without knowing the full story. He said that it was important to stay kind and calm, even when others were not. Mia listened closely. She nodded, trying to understand. Tom smiled, proud of her curiosity and gentle nature. Inside the bank, Rose remained near the counter. The teller had moved on to help the next person, but Rose stood still. Her thoughts were louder than the room. She replayed the moment when she saw the number on the screen. It did not match the picture she had formed in her mind. Rose had built her life around appearances. She believed that success should be seen easily through clothes, speech, and confidence. She had worked hard for her position and was used to being admired. That morning, she expected the bank visit to be simple and dull. Instead, it had left her unsettled. She walked slowly toward the exit, her steps less confident than before. Outside, she noticed Tom and Mia sitting on the bench. For a moment, she considered walking past them without a glance. Her pride urged her to keep moving. Yet something held her back. Rose paused a short distance away. She watched Tom tie Mia's shoelace carefully. His movements were gentle and patient. Mia laughed softly and hugged him once he finished. The scene was simple, but it carried warmth that Rose had not felt in a long time. Tom noticed Rose standing there. He met her eyes briefly and nodded in a polite way. He did not smile or frown. He showed no sign of anger or pride. That calm reaction surprised Rose more than the number on the screen. Rose cleared her throat and took a few steps closer. She struggled to find the right words. Speaking had always been easy for her, but now it felt different. She said hello in a quieter voice than before. Tom replied with a polite greeting. He stood up, holding Mia's hand. He did not ask questions or bring up what had happened inside. He waited calmly, giving Rose space to speak if she wished. Rose looked at Mia and then back at Tom. She said that she may have spoken too quickly earlier. The words felt heavy in her mouth. She was not used to admitting mistakes. Still, she continued. She said that she had judged without understanding. Tom listened without interrupting. He nodded once, showing that he heard her. He did not lecture or correct her. He simply said that everyone had moments to learn. His voice was steady and kind. Mia looked between the two adults, sensing the change in tone. She smiled shyly at Rose. That small smile softened something inside Rose. She realized that the true strength she had seen in the bank was not only about money. Rose thanked Tom for listening. She wished him and Mia a good day. Then she turned and walked away, her thoughts quieter than before. She felt a strange mix of humility and relief. Tom watched her leave and then looked down at Mia. He asked if she was ready for ice cream. Mia nodded eagerly. They walked toward a small shop nearby, laughing as they went. As they sat with their ice cream, Tom thought about the journey that had led him here. He thought about the nights he doubted himself and the mornings he kept going anyway. He did not feel proud in a loud way. He felt peaceful. Across town, Rose returned to her office. She sat at her desk but did not open her computer right away. Her mind kept returning to the image of Tom and Mia on the bench. She thought about how easily she had laughed earlier and how quickly she had been proven wrong. She realized that success was not only about numbers or status. It was also about character, patience, and quiet effort. This thought stayed with her as the day went on. Later that afternoon, Tom picked Mia up from school after work. They walked home together, talking about her day. Tom listened carefully, asking questions and encouraging her stories. He felt grateful for these moments. That evening, after dinner, Tom helped Mia with her homework. They sat at the small table under a warm light. Mia wrote carefully, and Tom guided her when she needed help. Outside, the city lights began to glow. As Mia went to bed, Tom read her a short story. She fell asleep quickly, holding her favorite toy. Tom sat beside her for a moment, watching her breathe softly. He felt content. The events of the day faded into quiet memory. The bank, the laughter, the surprise, all of it felt distant now. What remained was the steady rhythm of a life built with care and love. The next morning began early for Tom. The sky was light gray, and the city was slowly waking up. Tom prepared breakfast while Mia got ready for school. The smell of toast filled the small kitchen. This simple routine was something Tom valued deeply. It reminded him why he worked so hard and stayed focused on the future. After walking Mia to school, Tom headed to his workplace. He worked at a modest office where he handled planning and numbers. Most people there did not know much about his personal life. They only knew him as someone reliable and quiet. Tom preferred it that way. He believed that actions spoke louder than words. During his lunch break, Tom received a phone call from an unknown number. He hesitated for a moment before answering. The voice on the other end was calm and professional. The caller introduced herself as an assistant from a local business group. She said that someone had recommended Tom for a meeting regarding a new opportunity. Tom listened carefully. He asked a few simple questions and took note of the details. The meeting was scheduled for the following week. He thanked the caller and ended the call. He felt curious but not excited. He had learned to wait before reacting. Across the city, Rose sat in a quiet meeting room. She had spent the night thinking about what had happened at the bank. The image of Tom's calm face stayed with her. She realized that she had been wrong to judge him so quickly. That thought pushed her to take action. Rose spoke to her team about a new project focused on long-term planning and community growth. She said they needed people who understood patience and responsibility. As she spoke, Tom's name came up. She had asked the teller about him later that day and learned about his careful financial habits and steady history. Rose decided to arrange a meeting. Not out of pride or control, but out of genuine interest. She wanted to understand how someone could build so much while living so simply. She wanted to learn from a different kind of strength. Days passed quietly. Tom continued his routine. He worked, cared for Mia, and planned each step carefully. He reviewed his savings and investments late at night, making sure every choice matched his long-term goals. He believed in slow growth and steady progress. Mia stayed busy with school and friends. She shared stories with Tom every evening. Her laughter filled the home and made the hard days lighter. Tom felt grateful for her energy and trust. When the day of the meeting arrived, Tom dressed neatly in his simple jacket. He dropped Mia off at school and headed to the office building where the meeting would take place. The building was modern and tall. Tom felt calm as he entered. Rose was already in the meeting room when Tom arrived. She stood up when she saw him and greeted him politely. There was no trace of laughter in her voice now. Only respect. Tom returned the greeting with the same calm tone he always used. They sat across from each other at a long table. Rose spoke first. She apologized for her behavior at the bank. Her words were clear and sincere. She said she had learned an important lesson that day. Tom listened and nodded. He accepted the apology without holding on to the past. They talked about work, planning, and values. Rose asked questions and listened carefully. Tom shared his thoughts in simple terms. He explained how he focused on stability and future needs rather than short-term show. He spoke about responsibility and quiet effort. Rose found his ideas refreshing. She realized that success did not have to be loud. It could be steady and thoughtful. She offered Tom a role in the new project, one that matched his skills and values. Tom asked for time to think. He wanted to consider how it would affect Mia and their routine. Rose respected his decision. She told him to take all the time he needed. The meeting ended with a polite handshake. Both felt that something meaningful had begun. Tom left the building feeling thoughtful. He walked slowly, considering the opportunity. He knew change could bring growth, but it also required balance. His first responsibility was always Mia. That evening, Tom talked to Mia about the meeting in a simple way. He asked how she would feel if he took on a new project that might change their schedule slightly. Mia listened carefully and said she trusted him. Her words gave him comfort. Rose returned home later that night and reflected on the meeting. She felt a quiet respect for Tom's priorities. She realized that true leadership involved understanding people, not controlling them. As the city lights glowed outside their windows, both Tom and Rose felt that the morning light entered Tom's home gently. He sat at the small kitchen table with a cup of tea, thinking about the choice in front of him. The offer from Rose's company was still fresh in his mind. It was not about money alone. It was about time, balance, and the future he wanted for Mia. Tom believed every decision should bring peace, not pressure. Mia walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. She sat beside him and asked what he was thinking about. Tom smiled and told her that he was planning their future, step by step. Mia said that as long as they stayed together, everything would be fine. Her simple words gave Tom clarity. Later that day, Tom called Rose and agreed to accept the role, with clear boundaries about his time and priorities. Rose respected his honesty. She said that such clarity was rare and valuable. Their partnership began with trust, not control. Weeks passed, and Tom adjusted to his new responsibilities. He worked with focus and care, just as he always had. His ideas brought balance to the project. He listened more than he spoke and planned with patience. The team began to notice his steady influence. Rose observed quietly. She saw how Tom handled pressure without raising his voice. She saw how he gave credit to others and never sought praise. Slowly, her own approach to leadership changed. She began to value cooperation over command. At home, Tom kept his promises to Mia. He attended school events, helped with homework, and shared meals together. The new work did not take away from their bond. Instead, it strengthened it because Tom managed his time wisely. Mia grew more confident each day. She spoke proudly about her father to her teachers and friends. Tom listened to her stories with joy. He felt that true success was being present when it mattered most. One afternoon, the company held a small gathering to review the progress of the project. Rose invited Tom to speak. He stood in front of the group and shared simple thoughts about planning, patience, and responsibility. His words were clear and sincere. The room listened closely. After the meeting, several people thanked Tom for his insight. He responded kindly but without pride. He believed that growth was a shared effort. Rose watched with quiet admiration. She remembered the moment in the bank and how wrong she had been. That evening, Tom and Mia walked through the park near their home. The sky was painted with soft colors as the sun set. Mia held Tom's hand and talked about her dreams. Tom listened carefully, encouraging her to believe in herself. Rose also took time that evening to reflect. She realized that wealth and titles had once defined her view of success. Now, she saw value in humility and understanding. She began to invest more in people, not just projects. Months later, the project reached an important milestone. It was successful not because of speed, but because of strong foundations. Tom's careful planning played a key role. Rose acknowledged this openly and thanked him in front of the team. Tom accepted the thanks with a nod. He felt satisfied but not changed by praise. His focus remained on his values and his family. He knew that balance was the real reward. At home, Tom and Mia celebrated with a simple dinner. They laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed the quiet comfort of being together. Tom looked at Mia and felt grateful for every choice he had made. The memory of the bank visit faded into the past, but the lesson remained. Judging others by appearance could hide great truths. Quiet strength often carried the deepest impact. Rose and Tom continued to work together with mutual respect. Their paths crossed again and again, each time with greater understanding. Both had grown, not through conflict, but through reflection. As the story of the single father and the quiet number spread in small ways, it inspired others. People began to listen more and judge less. The change was subtle, but real. Tom tucked Mia into bed that night and wished her good dreams. He turned off the light and stood for a moment in the doorway. He felt content, knowing that he had built something meaningful. In the end, it was not the screen in the bank that mattered most. It was the character behind it, the patience to wait, and the love that guided every step forward.